using IBM Messaging, the way forward, the IBM applications messaging space. I'm Kiran Darba. I have overall 12 years of experience, and of which close to 10 years of it in MQ development. Currently, I'm working.
Hemant from IBM Bangalore.
Currently, I'm working as one of the technical leaders for WebSphere MQ, mainly focusing on .NET and mobile clients development to enable the developers access to the MQ managers from these spaces. I've also worked on various MQ clients development during this time. And in today's session, I'm going to introduce you to the IBM's MQ application messaging offering, and also enable you to get started using this new offering. So what we're going to do today is, I'm moving on to the next slide.
Now attending. Now attending.
It's going to take a few minutes, a few seconds to buffer up. So. Right. So I have it got buffered at all your screens. I'm on agenda slide now. So today's agenda, so we will first look into what is messaging, and to quickly brush up some concepts on messaging. And for those of you who are new to messaging, get some concepts on that. And then we will look into messaging focus areas from IBM. So what are we focusing next? And so the application messaging, the latest offering, MQ Lite, and then its use cases. And finally, we will look into deploying apps using MQ Lite, which is the application messaging. So that's the quick agenda slide. I'm moving on to the next slide. So I'm on what is messaging slide, which is slide number 3. So let's spend some time on MQ concepts, as that is from where we will come to application messaging in the slides that are yet to come. Right. So messaging is exchange of messages which are specially formatted data describing events, requests, replies. So in basic terms, the message is the one which carries critical information and that helps in application to exchange that particular message with the recipient or with the other application. And they do this using a messaging server, which acts as the message exchange program for the client programs. So in this slide, if you look at Q1, that's going to be the message exchange program, enables application A and B to communicate with each other via the messages. And what these carry is the business information. So that differs, and sometimes it carries XML kind of a data, sometimes bytes. So it depends on the use cases. I'm moving on to the next slide. So there are two major messaging models: point-to-point, which is also known as peer-to-peer messaging, something that we have seen in the previous slide, where two applications communicate with each other via a message, which can also be as a kind of a request-reply scenario. The other model is the publish-subscribe model, which is an event-driven messaging where interested clients register themselves to receive the messages. They choose a topic, register themselves as the subscribers on this topic. And there will be an owner or a publisher which sends messages onto this topic, and these messages are then received by all the subscribers who have shown interest on it or who have subscribed to it. So moving on to the next slide. So that's the kind of a messaging, what is the basic meaning of messaging and the popular models that play in the messaging space. slowly we will get into the MQ space from there, and we call MQ as Universal Messaging Backbone. And there are three characteristics. So if you break this Universal Messaging Backbone, each of it becomes a unique characteristic for it to become
now attending
a messaging backbone. So it's universal, so it has ability to connect virtually anything, variety of clients with variety of platforms of the messaging. And then the users are given freedom to make choices on MQ, so they can prefer the kind of high availability with the persistence. So if they have endless choice with the MQ, and then it's flexible to absorb changes. You can just write things on top of MQ, which makes it more flexible. You can just write a service on MQ and makes it more widely used. And the other characteristic is the messaging, using which MQ provides the ability to deliver the right piece of information to right person at right time to wherever the client is existing or running, and in whatever way we expect it to be delivered. This is quite important to deliver messages where we might have clients running on heterogeneous platforms, and MQ offers services using which the messages can be delivered from one platform to a different platform with variety of quality of services, let it be security, or let it be transactionality, let it be the kind of a message, whether it's a persistent message or a non-persistent message. So it offers ability to deliver right information with right kind of characteristics associated with it. And then it's a backbone where it is distributed yet unified, and it's highly scalable, robust, and it is highly available. So it has two modes of availability, which is one is inbuilt, where we manage it using a multi-instance queue manager setup, or it could be it could be via externally coordinated HA. So it is flexible, and it offers various options to make it highly available, or to call it to make it scalable, or to keep it flexible and yet adaptable. So these are the characteristics which makes MQ to be called as Universal Messaging Backbone. I'm moving on to the next slide. Right. So we will look into the MQ messaging model. So primarily, this webinar is focused for the developers, and to bring up what developers see as pain point today, and how the latest offering from MQ enables developers to get started and to leverage and make use of the programming skills and different tools they have in hand. Right. So what we will do is we will look into what MQ is and how MQ offers things and how we have been doing things with MQ, and then we will try and compare how the latest offering on the application messaging helps us to overcome some of the things that we see here, some of the points that we see here. Right, so MQ messaging model. So we have two messaging models from MQ. One is server model, where both MQ client and server run on the same computer, and they exchange messages using the inter-process communication, which we often also call it as shared memory concept. And this is popularly also known as server bindings connection mode. The second messaging model is the client model, where we have MQ server running on one computer and client running elsewhere, and both they establish a network connection, and then the send or receive of the messages happens over the network. So in first case, there is no network involved. It is on the same computer, and it happens via the shared memory. In the second case, it's over the network. I'm moving on to the next slide. I'm on slide number 7 now. So how does the client work? So it has set of MQI calls using which it communicates with the queue manager. right? So application runs on top of MQ client library, and then MQ client library is the one exchanges these MQI, which is a specific format from MQ for transfer of the data between client and the queue manager. So it's designed, it's fixed, and this is how the client applications communicate with the MQ queue manager. So it doesn't actually end here. So what we actually do is, before we get started on this, we have to install MQ, configure it, create queue managers, create required resources, which are channels, queues, set necessary authentication on them, make sure that nobody else can access something that we are working upon, and then get all these things done, and then write a program which then accesses these resources to establish a connection and then send or receive messages. So this is the whole story how we use MQ let it be for a basic messaging concept or let it be for advanced messaging. Some of these steps are minimum required to get started on MQ, right? So moving on to the next slide. Right. So that is how the MQ messaging model works, and that is what we have seen in the previous slides. So now we'll move on to the messaging focus areas. So as we discussed, enterprise messaging is the messaging backbone, and it focuses on traditional MQ values with quality of service, ease of operation, breadth of platform coverage. As of today, MQ covers over 70 platforms and with COS exploitation. And then it offers enterprise-wide class of service with various characteristics that we've discussed in the previous slides. So that's the enterprise messaging, which most of the organizations use with the MQ installed with them. The other mode that we already provide is the mobile messaging and M2M. I think those of you who have participated in the IoT webinar happened this morning. So a lot of it has been discussed there. So I will just quickly touch base on it. So mobile messaging from MQ focus on internet scale of events, which it has zero administration, provides security, privacy, and then feed in real-time analytics, and then it has location-based notifications. Not just this, using the MQTT protocol, even you can enable your mobile devices to send and receive messages with the MQ queue manager. So we have two offerings. One is for the enterprise-wide messaging, and one is the mobile messaging and M2M. So the latest offering is on application messaging. All right, so before we get into application messaging and what we offer there, we will quickly look in what is application messaging. Application messaging enables two or more applications to communicate with one another. It could be directly or indirectly or using the synchronous or the asynchronous messaging. And they do not have to be running at the same time. In case of synchronous messaging, yes, probably they might have to be running at the same time, but in case of asynchronous messaging, they don't have to be running at the same time. And and they create all the resources required on the fly, so they don't. For example, if you're sending a message to, let's say, QA, and you don't have to worry about who's creating QA. Did my administrator create QA? So it gets automatically created if it isn't existing. And then so it's some of these things are quite taken care of, and you don't have to install. You don't need to have a robust installation like we do for MQ. So application messaging is the place where you have everything under one zip folder, unzip it, and you get started with message queues. Looks quite simple and excited at this point of time, because all the while we were used to have a huge installation of MQ, which runs for a few minutes to complete installation, then spend some time creating objects. From that space, we have moved on to a space where you get everything as a zip folder, unzip it, copy to a location, and you get started with running the application. So that's the application messaging that we're looking at, that we are offering, and we're here to discuss more about that. Right, so this focuses on new application development use cases, offers breadth of language support, and the primary goal is to have ease of deployment, lightweight services, and integrate with developer frameworks. So you have a framework, so we want this application messaging to be very easily, gelled up with your existing frameworks. So that's the end goal that we wanted to get from the application messaging, and MQ Lite is one such offering which makes all this possible. I'm moving on to the next slide. Right, so what is application messaging? So some of it we've been discussing in the previous slide. So this slide is a little bit of more details and quite interesting. So let's start from the top corner of the divider line. So we have John, who is the IT man from the IT management. He lays a set of guidelines like must use approved IT services, and then work on share, reuse, and save. So these are a set of guidelines defined by the IT management, and Andy, as a developer, works on developing the services and client applications. But then he's completely dependent on the infrastructure guy, Ian, who has to deploy his applications and do some kind of testing or create some kind of setup, which can be used by Andy to test the applications that are developed. But this becomes a lot of restriction to the developers, isn't it? We do things quite fast, but then we are delayed because of administration. We are delayed because of a lot of process involved. A lot of times we feel the same thing. So we come to the bottom part of the screen now. So where there is reduced pull for services from Andy now. So which means Andy has got handy tools that he can grab, and he has got a system which runs independently like a sandbox machine, and where he can install messaging system and then field test it, or run all his tests and verify his service works as expected on his computer and doesn't have to depend on the infrastructure guy. So that's the benefit the application messaging offers. So moving on to the next slide. So some more background. MQ so why are we seeing this shift from MQ to application messaging? So that's what this slide speaks about. So MQ has support for wide range of languages, platforms, architectures, quality of services, topologies, configurations, etc. So that we have been discussing and we've been working upon. But however, administrators tend to be well-skilled on MQ technologies to manage and maintain the MQ system enterprise-wide. But developers tend not to be. If we're new to MQ, we spend a lot of time to understand MQ, start writing applications on MQ, and then start debugging the applications on MQ upon failure. A lot of times we are, like discussed in the previous slide, we are dependent on administrators very much for them to create resources that we want to test our changes. And a lot of these things are really time-consuming. At the same time, architects are being asked to do more with less. And that's the case everywhere, right? And that actually boils down to application developers who will have less time to learn, but then they have to get on board quickly and start executing things, which means they have less time to learn MQ product thoroughly, and but then quickly get on board and start doing things. So this is the background where MQ is good. MQ is still the market player for the enterprise messaging, but as we discussed, for developers who quickly want to do something, who quickly want to get on board, use things that are handy for them, be in their community. For example, I don't want to do Java. I want to do things on scripting. So I need something available on scripting. I want to do something on Node.js. I want to do something on a pure Java based. So each developer have our own set of expertise levels on platforms and languages. So we don't want to shift. We want to be part of the community, but yet get things done quickly. That's what is the MQ application messaging focusing at. So I'm on next slide. Andy developer, what the Andy likes. So he likes to drive, produce the applications that can be field tested in minimum time possible, and then he wants to use the best tools for his job, and then he wants to discover the technology that are relevant in his communities, and then intolerant for process, company mandates, impose technology that do not obviously and immediately benefit his application and his application development path. So keeping all this in mind, Andy wants something which he can have on his computer, at the same time use the skills that are handy for him, that he's expertise on, and then have things developed within few minutes, at the same time have things tested within few minutes. That's what Andy, as the application developers, and all of us as an application developers would want, right? So once we are happy with whatever we have developed, tested, we will eventually anyway move it on to the MQ or to the enterprise messaging that is running, which is under a safe zone, right? So before we move that application out of safe zone, we want to fully ensure that, yeah, that's what we wanted to move to, safe zone. Moving on to the next slide. MQ Lite. Currently, it's a beta offering. So MQ Lite is the latest offering from IBM for the application messaging. It's a new messaging API, and the runtime is available for on-premise development and deployment, as well as a platform as a service cloud deployment. It's a simple zip file or a tar file, depending on the platform, and it just contains the runtime libraries and API. So it's just a zip file. For those of you working on Windows, it's just a zip file. Download it, keep it in a drive, extract it. Your messaging system is up and running. So that's kind of it. So from several minutes of MQ installation, you've come down to few seconds of MQ installation. So which is huge shift. And it's around 5,200 MB on disk. That's based on the requirements we want. And most importantly, no traditional MQ commands. You don't have to use CSMQM, STRMQM, and MQM to create resources. Resources are created on the fly by using the application. And currently, from the beta offering, it's available on Windows 7 and RHEL 6, Windows 7 2008 and RHEL 6. Features, it's a simple API, like this code snippet shows, you just have to, it's few lines of program, less than maybe 10 lines, unless you really want to write a complete program which manages everything. It's 10 lines program which gets started, connects to a messaging system, and then starts sending or receiving messages. It's developer-oriented download and install process, so there is no installer. So we will see more details to come. So some of the features include it's developer-friendly, and it has web-based tooling. So all of us were used to use MQ Explorer for the administration, right? But in case of MQ Lite, it's web-based tooling, and it's based on open source technologies. AMQP is the messaging protocol used, and then it's easy to deploy on as app or as a cloud deployment. Right. So we will try to cover the points discussed in the previous slide. So first one is developer-oriented download and install. So there is no sign-in step. That's quite boring, isn't it? So whenever we want to download something from the IBM side, you have to have an IBM ID, log in, and few pages after is where you see product download. But that has been removed now. It's straightforward, so no sign-in step. Once you log in, you're there to download the zip file. And you don't require intrusive OS changes, which means no registry updates, no setting up users or their permissions, etc. So you just have to unzip and you get started. And then, it's more developer-centric look and feel, where you have the runtime in one directory and then set it on path and then get going. Appropriate platform support. So I've discussed it right now on Windows 7 and 2008, and it has RTL 6. And some of them in our list, and we will be considering for the beta releases, are Ubuntu, Mac OS, and SUSE Linux. And some of them that are not our target platforms are ZOS, IBM I, and a few more on the list. But then you can leave a feedback to us in case you really like the MQ Lite from the offerings that we have and you wanted something on these platforms. Right, so the next one is Simple API. So it's best suited for the rapid application development where you get started sending messages with less than 10 lines of code, and the administration is built into API as discussed, so you don't have to create topics or queues. In fact, the creating endpoints is taken care by the API, and this is based on AMQP 1.0. It's an open protocol, and we have taken this approach to encourage the developer community who, most of them are already using AMQP. And using AMQP, another advantage that we felt was we don't restrict you to use our clients. AMQP is an open protocol, right? So you can develop your own clients and then start using them with the MQ Lite server or the runtime that we ship. But at the same time, we have some language-specific libraries shipped as part of the MQ Lite. At the moment, we have Node.js client, which is currently shipped with the MQ Lite beta updates. But as I said, that doesn't stop you. You can develop your own clients based on the AMQP spec, and then can start using them. And most importantly, this is designed to fit in with what developers are used to. So you quickly and easily get client libraries added onto your runtime of your choice, and then and then you can and the client libraries are available via the appropriate repositories. But Node.js, you can use npm install MQLite that downloads and gets the MQLite client for the Node.js. On next slide, slide number 17. Current ideas for the API features. So all in bold that we see on this slide are something available today, and others are the ideas for the future beta drops. So we have message contents as text and binaries, and message properties are available as with the messages today. So you can set message properties. And then at most once is the quality of service that is available today with the MQ Lite. Some of the other things that we have in idea for future or in plan for the future updates are on the message delivery, time to leave of the messages, and the read ahead buffer require subscribers. So if if there are no subscribers registered for a particular topic, how many ever messages the publisher send all will be discarded as there are no subscribers to it. But this feature requires subscriber will cause publisher to fail if there are no subscribers. So some of these features are in thoughts, so probably you might see them in the future beta updates of MQ Lite. But if you see something you really want, probably you can leave a feedback to us on the download page, and we will get back to you. So I'm on the next slide. So Node.js API design. So this is the client that is available with MQLite. So when you can download this using the NPM, and then start using the API to send receive messages. So next few slides we will look into the API design and how you can get started. So the object is created by requiring the MQ client module. So the prereq step for this is you have to install the MQ client via the npm package manager. So you have to use npm install MQLite, so which downloads the MQLite client package and installs on your computer. So once you've done that, the next thing is to create an object requiring the MQLite module, and then the next is to create a client instance. And using this client instance, you can connect and send and receive messages. Some of the input parameters for this create client instance API call are the service, which is the URI at the point where the MQLite service is running, and then the ID, a unique identifier for this instance of the client. So this is useful if you want to come back at a later point of time. So that's why the unique client identifier will be useful. And this returns a new instance of the client object. I'm on the next slide. So it uses callbacks for the most of the API functions. So client.connect is the next call. So we have done require. We have created an instance of client. Next thing is to connect the client. As part of the connect client, if we fail, so the function error is the one which gets fired in case we fail to connect, and that's where you have to handle application logic to to fix the error or to take corrective actions. And then we have state change callbacks as well. So once you are connected, then you can probably run a callback that, we generally it's good to have a publisher once you're connected, or run receiver once you're connected. So there are no plans to use promises yet in the API, and it's best suited to callbacks which are called only once. Right. So once we are connected, when on the client.on callback function, we try and send messages. Now everything. So we have three kinds of message sends here. So one that sends as a string, second one sends it as a buffer, and third one sends it as a JSON object. So again, client.send, if you from the MQLite samples that we provide. So if everything that is enclosed within double quotes will be taken as one single message. If you do not use double quotes, then every space is considered as a different message. So in this case, we use double quotes. Hello world is one message. You do not use double quotes, then hello is one message, world is one message. We will anyway see a quick demonstration as how to do that. So many function parameters are optional. So the next one shows a simple publish, subscribe, publish API call as how you publish messages is onto a topic. So MQLite messaging model for the PubSub. Applications send messages to a topic, and the topic is an address in the topic space, either a flat or arranged hierarchically. So it can be just one single topic, or you can have a hierarchy of the topic structure. And then you have a destination. So you have destinations created using, you can use wildcards while creating destinations on the receiver, and then you have client 1 and client 2, which receives the messages that are published by the sender application. Now, in both the cases, you see hello world, but there are two messages received by both the client applications. So it is not one message, but it is two messages, as we have published two messages, one with hello and the other with world. Pattern matching scheme is based on MQ, so the concepts that we use in MQ can be reused here, and multiple destinations can be created with match, the same pub sub style. So most of the MQ programming concepts that we have on publish subscribe can be reused here, but the biggest advantage that this offers is, it's the runtime and the client are on same computers, so you don't have to have a big setup of and administration of MQ, but you have everything created on the fly on your computer. It has persistent destinations, where you can define a time to leave after the receiver deattaches. So you can define a time to leave on the destination, and the destination will be kept active until the time to leave expires, after which the destination is deleted. This is after the receiver deattaches itself. And it has client takeover, which is by the unique client identifier that we use while creating a client instance. Reusing the same client ID at a later time, it gets the original connection that was earlier created, which means if there are any messages which are in the destination can be reused or can be got by the client when it reconnects. All right, so that's on the Node.js API design. So it's very quick, and all that you do is with 5 API calls and less than 10 lines of application program, and you do not have to have a huge installation. All you have to do is download the MQLite zip and unzip it and have the runtime on your box. And you don't need to create any resources. API will take care of creating resources on the fly for you when you run the application program. So some of the use cases as how MQLite could be used are as a low maintenance messaging hub in stores, warehouses, showrooms, etc. Which work on point of sale and as a kind of a systems, or it could be as a redistributable component in hardware and software solutions. So it can be embedded in a hardware or a software solution and then redistributed, or as a store and forward queue manager for applications that occasionally need to connect to enterprise MQ network. So you have things running on this box, and every day so all the while when it is connected, messaging is happening, it stores the messages, and once in a day, it forwards all the messages that it received to the enterprise MQ. And the another biggest use case is with the developers, where you can have your Eclipse programs, Eclipse development environment to start writing the MQ programs which connect and give you a feel of how your MQ application service runs and the expected results it can produce. So these are some of the typical use cases of the MQLite. The deployment options. So it can be, it can be on MQLite runtime, which is on-premise application messaging. You can have the MQLite runtime running on your computer, and you can deploy your application on the same computer which connects to runtime to send receive messages. It can be on Elastic MQ running on IBM Bluemix, which is again in a beta offering, and it's a public cloud messaging. So we have Elastic MQ service run offering from the IBM Bluemix, and you can push your application onto the cloud, which can connect to MQ. So you can create an MQ service on the cloud and push your application, which can connect to MQ service to send and receive messages. And the statement of direction is also to offer the deployment with the IBM WebSphere MQ. So as I said, this is a statement of direction which we will be looking forward. But at the moment, we have main two options. One is MQLite runtime, which is on-premise, and then I can be to IBM Bluemix, via the Elastic MQ service on the cloud, on the Bluemix. So some more details on the MQ Lite for on-premise deployment. And it's for the small line of business projects, for example, queuing up of bills, sending some notifications to, different departments within the organization and things like that. And there are no mission-critical features provided like HA or horizontal scaling. So these features are not available. And MQ Lite will probably be available to, license as the production runtime for the message applications, but it is specific licensing plan is not finalized yet, and we're working towards that. But this is fully compatible with IBM MQ Lite is fully compatible with IBM Elastic MQ service in Bluemix. So it's easy to migrate the applications that you have developed for your MQ runtime on-premise to migrate them onto Elastic MQ service, which is offered as a platform as a service on the Bluemix at a later point. So you can easily migrate your local applications to run as on cloud. IBM Elastic MQ service. So this is the cloud deployment option, so which is messaging in a platform as a service. MQ currently offers cloud deployment options in a couple of flavors. One, as we've been discussing on the Bluemix. The second one is MQ Hypervisor addition for AIX and RHEL, and then messaging extension for web application pattern on Pure App and So the latest one is on the Elastic MQ service running on the IBM Bluemix platform as a service. So this is rich in features where it is admin-free experience, and MQ environment is automatically provisioned for each user when they request an instance of the Elastic MQ service. So, you get the MQ environment completely built, set up, and ready to use for you. So you don't have to do any administrative or environmental changes to the instance you got. Everything is set up, configured, ready for you to start, send, or receive messages. And we are working with the Bluemix team to offer seamless development to production experience on the Bluemix. And one thing to note is it's not a full MQ experience on the cloud. So, Elastic MQ on cloud is to offer rich user experience, at the same time keep the minimum required attention towards the configuration, setup, and things like that. So you don't have all the administrative changes. So to keep them absolutely at the low point or not to have any changes in those areas. So that's what the Elastic MQ on Bluemix is targeted for. So to achieve that, you might not find the complete MQ experience on the cloud. For example, if you want to create clusters, that might not be possible on the cloud. If you want to create channels, that might not be possible on the cloud. But you have all of them created and set up and configured for you to use. So what we
now departing.
So what we have tried is to keep the administrative and configuration changes as minimum as possible. So I'm moving on to the next slide. So the download and install experience. So you can, as we discussed, so this is the download page, MQ Lite beta page, and you see two blue buttons, one for the Windows 64-bit and another for the Linux. You can just download the one you want. And then there is Learn About MQ Lite on your left-hand side, which has quick links on setting it up and reading the API design protocol and some of the troubleshooting tips. And Next slide. It has web-based tooling, as we discussed. So this is the web UI of the MQLite. So on the right side, you have the, leftmost side you have the senders, and the rightmost side you have the receivers. The middle grid is the messages that have been sent or received. So how to get started? I wanted to do this as a demo. So probably what we will do is I will quickly go through the slides and then show you a live demo on my computer. So it shouldn't take really long time. It must be really fast. Right, so first thing you have to do to get started is the download MQLite beta package. I have the links shared on this presentation, so probably you can use those links and download the MQLite beta package, unzip the contents to a local directory. So I have unzipped it to IBM MQLite was my directory where I have got that, and then start the MQLite service. And once as part of the startup, you get a licensing agreement. Probably you can read through it and then accept the license if you wish to. And then a web-based UI opens, which is the web-based tooling where you can see senders, receivers, and messages. And then it also has the same web-based tooling. One of the tab on that is the documentation, which you can use for further read-up. I'm on next slide. So next is to download the Node.js runtime from the Node.js org. And once you download it, you have to install the Node.js on your computer. And once done, you can download the MQ client package from the npm. So that's the command npm install MQLite. And once you've done that, set environment variable. So it's a path. So set node path to
now departing an unidentified participant.
Node modules. So set this path, and then you can try send.js or receive.js samples to send and receive messages. So it's that simple. So you really can get started in less than 5 minutes for sending and receiving messages. So this is the page where we have the MQLite beta available, and then this is the place where you can download the MQLite beta, and then you can try it out. So what I will do now is to quickly show you the demonstration. It should not take hardly be around 2 minutes time. All right. What I will do is I will try and go quite slow, so that it buffers properly for all of you. Okay. Hi. So are you able to see my screen? Is it buffering properly on at your end?
No, we can't see it.
So what I'll do is I'll stop sharing and then again restart it. Probably that will help. Okay, so I have stopped sharing now. I will again give it one more try and see if it works. Hi, is it visible now? My screen is visible now, or you still see the same problem? Hello. So is my screen visible now, or it's still the same problem? It's taking a lot of time to buffer.
Yeah, we can't see the screen.
Okay.
It's blank only.
Okay. So it looks like it's taking some time to buffer. Probably what we can do is, you can follow the steps that I have given in my previous slide. So I'll just So you can follow the steps that I've given here. There are in all 10 steps, I think, and these samples are available in Node.js and the Node modules, MQLite samples. That's where you can see the sender and receiver sample. Probably you can give it a try, and then contact me if you get any questions while you're trying for it.
Sure.
And please do give your feedback to us. We'll be really excited to see what was your experience, and if there's anything else that you want us to add, any suggestions and any feature requirements. That's what really helps us to make it, much developer friendly. So that's all I had for today. If you have any questions, probably we can take them now. Otherwise, my email ID is there on the slide. You can get in touch.